on Pennsylvania.
Okay, guys, it is Saturday, right around noon here on the 26th Saturday, I think, of March 2022. I'm here with Timothy Andrews. I met Tim a few days ago at the trucker rally. He's got some really compelling stuff to tell us. So I'm just going to let him go, and I'll try to ask questions as needed. So take it away, Tim.
Okay. Being down here, like I was telling you a couple of minutes ago, I'm finding that the difficulty I've had since 2016 trying to teach this, since I found this information, was difficult to do. But now, coming to this trucker rally, it's amazing how many people that I'm running into are actually most of the way awake and are just missing just a minute piece of this grand puzzle that's keeping us all changed.
And this is kind of something you specialize in.
And yeah, it is.
Okay, so
I actually kind of figured it out by accident because I worked at a cemetery and I asked a really dumb question one time, and I said, why is it on the tombstones, everybody that dies, their name is converted to all capital letters?
Mm-hmm.
And it just doesn't make sense to me. Why, just because I died, would you change the way my name looks on something to make it look completely different than what I was taught
how to write
my name?
Right.
So I asked the question, why is that? And the lady did some research, and she come back to me and she said it's because capital letters signify things that are not living.
Mm-hmm.
So they put your name in all capital letters after you die to signify you are, in fact, right there under that tombstone, all dead. Now, this has been in our faces for how long? I mean, a long, long time.
Well, to be clear, it's not just tombstones.
But there's a couple different things we'll look at. Let's start just getting the whole reason why you can see the truth here in this, because the question I just asked is really key. If your name being converted to all capital letters is to show and signify that you are in fact now all dead, because every letter of your name is capital, and every letter signifies and represents something that's not living, and that shows your body's dead. If all capital letters show in fact you're all dead, which they do, then how in the world did we come up with a school curriculum that is teaching to write your name partially dead? Does that make any sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, because the common sense of this is if all capital, I mean, this is really, really simple. It's so simple, all of us are missing it.
Right. If all capital is the way, why wouldn't we all just learn all caps all the time?
All capital signifies you are all dead. Then what is the common sense exact opposite to show you're in fact all living?
Lowercase.
The letters show whether you're alive or whether you're dead. But in the instance like how we were taught to write our name, that's not to represent the first letter of your name being, like mine's Timothy, so I'll say T being the first letter. If I capitalized it, that letter represents something that's not living. Well, something that's not living doesn't speak, and it can't hear, it can't affect anything. It's just kind of there. It doesn't reveal anything. It's just there. So if a letter, and it's just like an actor on a stage, if a letter is acting as something that is dead, can you hear it? No, because you're an actor laying on a stage playing dead.
Mm-hmm.
The letters are the same thing. So they've literally taught us to kill our speech when we write, because if you eliminate all them dead letters because they can't make a sound. Here's an example, my name again, say it's capital T, I-M-O-T-H-Y. If the T is dead and it cannot speak, it's Imothy. It's not Timothy.
It's not your name.
It's Imothy. It's not even my name.
Mm-hmm.
So when you address these people who are our Congress, our Senate, our governors, and all these things, we're doing it in what I like to call legalese, because that's what it is. The courts are doing this trickery every single day to people, whether it be in single capital letter or it be in all capital letter. Because all court cases, all of them without exception, and every single citation that comes out of a police car, without exception, they alter your name and change it. They convert it from the way you write it in life to all capital letter name. And that's because all of these places, whether it be police barracks, a government official, the governor himself, a health place like hospitals, your bank, it doesn't matter.
The DMV.
Yeah, DMV. You know, they all convert your name to an all capital fiction, and there's a very legitimate reason for that. They have to, because they can't force you to do business with them. A business, which is what they're operating as, you're seeing a man and a woman behind the counter, but it's not that man and woman's business. They're an employee of that business. That business can't affect nobody without a man or a woman's hands working a typewriter or a pen. You see what I'm saying? To levy something on someone. Okay. Well, the courts are operating that way too. It's a business. So each judge, prosecutor, and clerk of court, they all know. Those three know this about the capital letters. It's not a joke. When you write in all lowercase, they swallow their self. You see it on their face. Oh my God, how he figured it out. So if we would literally start writing, and I know it seems goofy. It looks goofy to me too still, and I've been doing this since 2016. But I can tell you definitively, and I got the paperwork to back it up, that every time I've done it since, it's been effective. It has not been sidestepped. It's had some kind of a very real effect. And there's no denying, if it was nuts, it wouldn't have no effect.
So can you give us an example of this? How you've used this?
An example would be when they decided they liked me so much and became paparazzi. Okay? Mm-hmm. They do that when you get really close, like a lot of these people are really close.
Right.
Very close.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of these people are getting harassed. And that's when they started harassing me, was when they knew, oh my God, this guy's so close.
Yeah, a lot of people say over target or something like that. Right?
He is so close that, like you said, oh shit, I must be right over the target. So when I became over the target, you got to start looking at what's them little things revolving around that wheel. What did I just do?
Right.
So you start thinking about all the little things you did, and it added up. And I'm going, okay. So the next time I went into a court, I had all but 2 letters on a 3-sentence notice common claim for the judge. And the prosecutor, of course, gets a copy of it. The prosecutor turned white as a ghost, because everything was lowercase except for 2 letters. The word the capital T, which converted the word to he without my knowledge, because I still hadn't fully grasped this.
Okay.
And I forget what the other word was anymore. I'd have to look at the paper again, but there was only 2 letters. And the prosecutor, I kid you not, it was like somebody was about to catch him on fire. He was scared. And he turned and looked at the judge. This is in federal court. This ain't county or state court. This is federal court.
Right. And that's a big difference for people that don't know. You know, we have our federal courthouses in our country. We have our federal prisons, and we have state and county.
Right.
And federal is the top one. That's like the most. When you commit a federal crime, that's typically more serious than dealings in county and state and things like that.
Right. But anyway, what this prosecutor said, he turned to the judge right away. I mean, instant, like a light switch. And he says,
so hold on, let me back up for a second. Your all cap letter name was summoned to court, and you showed up. Is that right? You were there for you were kidnapped.
On a false charge.
Okay, but you were there for a case.
Drug into court. Yeah, I was.
So you're drugged into court by the authorities.
Marshals. Yeah.
Marshals. Okay, and that's right. The federal courts, by the way, they have marshals. The marshals can come anywhere to get you in the United States. So you have a federal warrant. The marshals aren't like sheriffs. They can cross state lines and come get you anywhere that you are. Just so you know.
And they don't show you a warrant either.
They just snatch you up.
Just a grand jury indictment. Who's the grand jury? They never even tell you who they are. How do you address a grand jury that's falsely accusing you of something?
Yeah, grand juries are always in secret.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so they can basically, because of this capital letter trickery that I'm exposing, can do anything to anybody at will.
Right.
I mean, they can just be, say somebody, like, I'm going to use the word Doug. I'm going to say Doug. I ain't going to go any further, but let's just say I gave Doug a piece of paper, and all of a sudden he's just not real happy with me no more, because that piece of paper is pretty real. That person might get mad enough to want to cut the brake lines on my car or something, and I don't want to see that happen. But this is all This is all lawful. I mean, this is really, really, really basic, simple, and I think that's why most people ain't
Have a hard time trying to get it.
Right. And here to give you another example. This one here is priceless. When I did this one, I about had to sit back in my chair at home in disbelief that it actually happened, because I was still experimenting myself, because I kind of had an idea. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, dead things can't speak. So these letters, if they're acting as a dead thing, they can't speak. So then I looked up what capital letters do online. In fact, I have it on my phone. Let me show you something. I'll find this, and you can actually see it in their own writing where they admit capital letters reveal nothing. And the way they word it makes it difficult for people to comprehend what they're really saying. And they're really telling you none of this matters. None of this crap they're doing matters at all.
So whatever happened? Back to the story about the prosecutor. You said you went into court. You're drugged by marshals. Where did you get the paper? How did you write it up?
For which?
When the marshals brought you to court.
When the marshals drugged me into court, the first judge I saw was a Judge Carlson in Harrisburg, and of course I knew about Trinzy, which I explained to you earlier off video. The prosecutor, I knew I was being wrong. I'm not a felon. They tried to get me as a felon in possession of firearms after a murder attempt, and then being pissed off and stealing 26 antique firearms out of my home. Okay. So they used that as the false charge because they didn't get their body to shut me up. They used that as a way to put me behind bars to shut me up. And then they tried another murder attempt behind bars too, but I'm not going to go into that story right now. But what you were asking about when I first went in.
I'm saying, where'd you get the paper to write the note to the prosecutor? You got that?
Oh, I already had it done.
Okay, so you took that with you.
Oh yeah, I already had it done. It wasn't with me. But if in the event you don't have it and you get a surprise thing like that, all you got to do is say, I can't do business with you until I'm supplied with the pen and paper.
Right.
Because you do not have to orally give them anything.
Right. So you could just be sitting. So if that were to happen to someone, they could be sitting in court and they'd be like, "I need pen and paper." You just write down, and you can communicate in lowercase to them. You can say something like, "I'm a man."
Communicate in lowercase, and you're only ever going to do a notice or a claim. As a living man, you can make a claim, unless, of course, you happen to be an actor. If you agree to join the military, you're now under the authority of a higher authority.
Right.
Now you're taking orders.
Right.
But if a lesser authority gives you an order, as a man, it's only a complaint.
Right.
You'll notice court stuff is always a complaint. It's always police reports and stuff. Always a criminal complaint or some kind of a complaint. That's because that's all they can do.
That's because they're underneath of us.
They're underneath of us, and people ain't catching this.
It's all they can do. You have to understand, it's word magic. A friend of mine, Chris, from the vaccine police, he was recently in court, and the judge said to him, he says, "Do you understand?" And he says, "No man stands over me." That's what the judge told him, and then the judge is looking at him like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" And you can find this video somewhere. I'll call Chris this week if you guys are interested, and I'll get the video. But he literally says, "Your Honor, no one stands under me. What are you talking about?" And the judge kind of looks at him, and next thing you know, he's walking out of court. And that's I don't know what happened with the case, but it went haywire as soon as he started talking this way.
When he asserted himself. And without even realizing what he did, possibly, the court did know.
Well, he knows a good bit because and we're all kind of raising our not level of knowledge here, so it's happening fast, and so people are figuring it out. So I think Chris knows a little, maybe not as much as you do, but people are learning this, and it's almost like as soon as you poke it a little bit, hey, you got my name spelled wrong here.
Oh, they get real offensive.
What are you talking about? Well, I don't write this way. So who is this? What is this thing you're calling up?
They get very offensive. In fact, you'll usually hear a clerk of court or somebody in their office say, "We can't accept it like that." They'll try not to take this. They will try not to accept it. It's all offering acceptance in business. You hand them a piece of paper,
it's making a deal.
You're making an offer, but that's doing it as a citizen realm. You're making an offer because you're a business. Doing business with a business.
Right.
But if you go in there as the man, which all of us are, as the sovereign man on this land, the people, who all power is vested in. If you read our constitutions, each state has one, and they're all written about the same way for that part of the powers. It tells you all the powers vested in the people. They've been telling us all along.
Oh, yeah.
But they created this school curriculum that has bamboozled people into losing the knowledge of what capital letters actually can't do. They can't speak, so your name can't be written that way, or you're literally agreeing to be lesser than a higher authority. Part of your manhood, let's say, your wholly alive man, part of you is missing. That doesn't mean my arm is missing and I'm now here with 2 legs and 1 arm. That's not what that shows. In that instance, it simply shows you're not in your full authority.
Right.
You'll see military people, policemen, all that do that. But when they go to act, you'll see it on court documents, you'll see it on police name tags, you'll see this everywhere, even McDonald's employees. They're acting as a business fiction at that point in time. So when they print out your employee badge, it also is in capital letters, all caps, because you are acting as a business entity.
With a corporation.
Business is not a living thing. So it's kind of wild what they're doing. And
that's why a lot of people talk about it. I have in different circles, people are learning about different things, whether it's state
Right.
nationalism, whatever.
Right.
And people are talking about United States corporation. Like even the word corpse is not a living thing. You know,
Right.
so there's wordplay on all that too.
I'm glad you brought up the word corpse, actually, because I relayed this to you the other day. Their playbook is actually written, and most people don't know where to find it. That's the biggest thing. They have to tell you, but they don't tell you where it's at. You got to go look. And if you're not a hard-headed bonehead like me that gets really stubborn and just goes to studying law and reading everything you can possibly find, you're not going to find all these little clues that lead you to the grand picture. You're just not gonna. And our brains are programmed to be thinking the opposite anyway, so we're not seeing the abnormality.
Correct.
Until you start seeing these little specks of admissions by either Supreme Court, like in Trinzy, where they admit that their words have no effectiveness on summary judgment. Well, then whose does? Well, they've just effectively admitted the only people that matter is us.
Right. They don't exist without us.
Right, but
And so long as we stay under their spell and we don't figure it out, they remain in power.
Right, but then you look at their rule book, and this is where, oh boy, this is going to upset a lot of attorneys out there, and I know there's some that really have their hearts in a good place, but CJS, Kathy, Jason, Sally, is Corpus Juris Secundum,
Latin.
Legal Encyclopedia, Volume 7, Section 4. Is the rule book for all of these actors. All of them. The heading on that chapter says attorney-client relationship. But when you read this chapter, you'll realize it's a standard rule that all of these daggone players have to follow. All of them.
Which correct me if I'm wrong here, but it means that they're part of, they're an officer of the court before.
They're all part of the team.
They're all part of the team, and so
Right.
when you think of if you think about it, if you think of lawyers representing you, they're really
Right.
not. They're
Right.
They're working for the system.
Right. And
They're officer
right.
of the court.
Right.
They have to uphold the court first before
Right.
they,
Right.
And I do think you're right. I mean, I do think a lot of lawyers, think they're doing good. They think they're getting what's best for their clients and all those other things. But at the end of the day, they're beholden to the court first.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it says so right there in that CJS Legal Encyclopedia, Volume 7, Section 4. Golden piece of information. Trinzy, 1964 Supreme Court ruling, Trinzy versus Pagliaro. Statements by counsel, whether in brief, which is written, or oral argument, is not sufficient for summary judgment. That's the merits of the case.
Wow.
I mean, there's their admission. That is so deadly that when I said that to that federal judge that day, I said, excuse me, but I called him by his name. I forget what it was, John, I think. And I said, John, Trinzy versus Pagliaro, statements by counsel, whether in brief or oral argument, are not sufficient for summary judgment. Why is this man speaking?
Because they can't speak on your behalf.
And the prosecutor I'm talking about, against me.
Against you. Or your own attorney, too. It's the same,
The
right?
judge went from screaming at me in the courtroom because he knew I was one of them people out there, that are this close to going, hey, we're your boss, and we know how to smack you now. We figured it out. He didn't know I figured it out yet. I was still doing it. But when he realized I knew Trinzy, he went from being this arrogant SOB. I'm talking about a federal judge.
Oh, I know. I was just in federal court this week with Coy Griffin. I mean,
leaning across his desk like this, and his jaw, I kid you not, if he'd have had dentures, they'd have went flying across the room. His jaw bounced off the table, and he said, "That's good." And the interesting part about it is, the prosecutor never got to say a single more word. This is a prosecutor.
and a federal prosecutor.
I'm in chains when I said this.
Unbelievable.
And the case went,
And you walked out of
the
there?
marshals, get the guy out of here. They didn't know how to handle the situation
Wow.
because they knew I
That's
was
an
right.
incredible story.
They knew I was right.
I've never
They
heard a
knew-
story like that ever
they knew-
before.
They knew that I was arrested wrongly. And that goes into a story that goes back to the Pennsylvania lieutenant governor and my ex-mother-in-law, who was his executive assistant, kidnapped
Well, they
his
snatched
kids.
you up with no warrant and all that
And-
stuff.
Yeah. Well, it was a cover-up thing, you know.
Well, someone put out the order to come get you.
Absolutely. And it all came from the political realm because they're all on the same exact team.
Right, but you
So
gotta, but if you arm yourself, and we're going to wrap up
Right,
here. And by the way, Tim, we're going to do more, obviously. He teaches classes and stuff.
Absolutely, and they're free, 100%.
And so we're going to
free.
work here in the next few weeks. He's helping out with me with some of my own matters. So today is the 26th. This is not going to be, you're not going to see this until after the 1st of April, unfortunately. But we're going to work together on some things. And next time him and I talk, you're going to hear about what happened to me and what he helped me with, which is going to be staggering. And his own stories are obviously staggering, and his information is obviously incredibly
important.
and it's very important, and we need to know this stuff. This is and by the way, we've seen it. I just gave you an example of Chris, the vaccine police. I've seen another guy in Idaho or something saying a similar thing, sitting down. He doesn't even stand when the judge comes out. He sits with his legs crossed. He said, "Who are you to talk?" You know, so the knowledge is coming, but this is the guy with it, obviously.
I do that same thing. I don't stand up. In fact, I had a marshal grab a hold of me, physically grab a hold of me by the back of my orange jumpsuit, and said I had to stand. This was my answer, and it should be everyone's answer. You got to remember, they're all acting as royalty. That's why they appoint people to offices. If they're not
Kingships,
elected,
all of it.
they're showing you the two different realms. One is a royalty realm, like England, because of D.C. We won't go there right now.
You know, Abraham.
The other
You
realm
know,
is
Abraham
ours.
Lincoln sold the 10x10.
I'm the one that told you.
I think Angel told me. Oh, you probably told her. Abraham Lincoln sold the 10x10 square miles in Washington, D.C. to King James.
It wasn't sold to him. At the end of the Civil War, we were in debt because our treasury had been depleted. Because prior to the Civil War, and most people don't know this, unless you read a lot of history books, you ain't going to know. And Lincoln was a bar associate before he became president. He was already in allegiance with the
Right, he was already a lawyer.
due to being an attorney. And I'm glad you brought that word up too, folks. You got to understand. Look it up in the dictionary. This is not a joke. Attorney and lawyer are two different things
Right.
altogether.
Right.
They do not have the same job. One can speak, the other one cannot. One gives you information as you lean over in the courtroom and say, "What can I do now?" And this lawyer, the lawyer says to this man, "This is what you say." He is your assistant. That's all he is. He's counsel. He's assistance. But you, as the man, are who speaks. These people, there hasn't been a lawyer in this country since 1789. You know that? It's with the inception of the Constitution. Okay, that was all gone away with. But now they're all attorneys at law because they're not going to step in law, because if they stepped in law, heaven forbid, they wouldn't be able to wrong you anymore. Unless, of course, you violate somebody by either one. There's only two elements.
There's only two things
Two
that
elements
you can be
of
charged
theft.
with.
There's
One
only
is destruction of property, right?
Property damage or
And bodily harm.
And
Those are
both-
only
both
two
of
things.
these.
Everything else is a code,
Right,
or
statute, rule,
a
policy.
statute, rule,
Absolutely.
policy, code. What's some of the other ones? They got a lot of names for this stuff.
Those are
violation,
all-
ordinance.
Those are all what's called color of law.
Color of law,
They're
right.
made to look like law. They want us bamboozled into believing it's law, so they're going to color it that way and have you.
Right. So at the end of the day, even if
That's not-
even if you can't pick up on some of the things Tim is putting down here, pretty heavy, and you might want to watch this twice. I'm gonna go watch it again. At the very end of the day, the only things you can actually get in trouble for are physical harm,
Right.
bodily harm,
Right.
and destruction of property.
Right.
So anyway, all right, Tim. Well, let's wrap up there.
And really, both are the same. If you think about it, your
Yeah.
body is your property. Everything on this earth is someone's property.
Right. Right.
With the exception of the air, if I could claim the air was mine, I'd bill everybody $10 a day for it.
Yeah,
I'd be
I
rich.
think they're trying that, right?
They might be trying.
They're starting to tax us on air. I
They
think
may
dirty
try.
air or something. They've done it through emissions and
They-
everything else.
they
They're
may.
collecting tax on dirty
They
air,
may
anyways.
actually
They're charging
try.
in some sort of way.
They're already doing it with the water. So,
Yeah, the
the
food.
air is probably the food. So the air is probably next in line.
Well, they're spraying us from above with something. Looks like.
Well, that could be part of it too. But
I don't know.
So,
Well, anyway, let's wrap there. Tim, thank
appreciate
you.
your time.
We're gonna do more with Tim.
If it weren't for guys like you putting us out, these people wouldn't know. They would. The guy behind that screen right there, or gal, that gives a damn. they
And we need to
wouldn't
give a damn about this because as we call ourselves truthers and we call ourselves awake,
Right.
okay, the Great Awakening, whatever you want to call it, this is powerful knowledge.
Right.
Right. You can know
Oh,
that
absolutely.
you can know there's a bioweapon. You can know about the cabal. You can know about the banking. You can know about the school systems and the hospitals and all. You can know all of this, but when you get summoned for your day in court and you realize it's a house of cards, and if you know a couple key things to say and do to make it all just collapse around you and walk out there with a smile on your face and be like, I'm telling more people about this and bring it all down, that's what we're doing. So anyway, Tim, thank you, buddy.
Yeah.
We'll talk again soon.
welcome.
Tim's close by me, so him and I are going to be able to do more together. He's only an hour and a half, 2 hours away from where I live, so I'm going to spend a lot of time on this. As things shift here, the stories that I've been doing a lot of recently are Washington, D.C., and I'll still do some of that and different things happening, but we need to arm ourselves with knowledge, and always in the name of Christ, in the name of God, because that is my God. And these other authorities here on earth in this realm, we're learning how to, this guy was in chains from a U.S. Marshal, right?
3 years falsely held, but I would not give in.
Walks into court.
I would not give in. I knew I was right. I
Which
knew
is-
I knew if I did give in, they
And-
would
and
have
we-
precedent case law to take people's guns from them without a crime too. I'm not about to let my brothers and sisters lose their property they worked for
Right.
over something so sinister. Think about it. That capital letter thing, every single thing these courts have done to every one of us, whether it's your grandparents losing their
All
house,
the way back.
whether it's your children being taken by CPS, whether it's grandma and grandpa losing their home, whether it's your car being repossessed for crying out loud.
For unpaid tickets or whatever.
All of it has been done to us in 100% fraud, and there is no denying it once you realize what capital letters do, including the single capital that changes your name and authority from the full authority you have as man in your Constitution, where it says all the right is in the people, all power. You've now lowered yourself by agreeing to be that one capital letter to the citizen,
And don't-
slave, or indentured servant. All three of those words have almost the same definition.
And don't
Almost
forget,
the same
it's
thing.
our educational system that taught us how to write. So
Absolutely.
the indoctrination starts young,
Yep.
okay? Capital letter for your first name, capital letter for your last name. You're already part of their system. The Jesuits said, give us 7 years and we can make a robot.
There you go.
Right? And so that's what's happened. So we got to shake free of the brainwash, listen to what guys like Tim are saying, and he's obviously very powerful, knows his stuff. So I'm excited about our relationship going forward to share this knowledge with you guys. So thanks for watching, and there'll be more of this to come.
Yeah, thank you for your time. Thank you, Rich.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Miss Camera Lady.